NFL draft and signings, how many Jayhawks landed on rosters, Kansas defending home turf against Baylor on both diamonds, and Kansas writer GJ Melia hops into our ring to react to May Pack, the final round of this semester's editions of Good Morning KU. Ding ding. Welcome into Good Morning KU, our final Monday show of the semester. Griffin Hughes with me here. I'm Jackson Long. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, lots going on this weekend. Let's jump right into the action with KU football. Actually, I love me some football. The Jayhawks in the NFL. Linebacker Ben Heaney, he was selected in the 5th round of the Oakland Raiders. Cornerback Ja'Cory Shepard lands with the Eagles in the 6th round. And actually, a couple picks later, they picked up a K-State cornerback. And another corner, Dexter McDonald, goes in the 7th to join Heaney in Oakland. So we got 2 Jayhawks as Raiders now.
Absolutely. Other free agent signings around the league. You take a look at some of the guys. Nigel King makes his way to a roster as well. Trevor Perdula. Total of 7 football players for Kansas. Nick Harwell to the Cowboys. We mentioned King earlier to the Dolphins. Jermaine Mundine, the tight end, to the Browns. Perdula lands home here with Kansas City Chiefs. Tony Pearson, the running back. Perdula for Heisman, a trending topic. Tony Pearson to the Bears. Michael Reynolds, the, Buck linebacker, you could say, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And safety Cassius Sendis to the Browns. And that is all for Kansas football. They lost a lot of talent. They'll have to replace a lot, especially on the defensive side coming up this year. We'll flip real quickly to Kansas baseball now. The team is less than 2 weeks away from the end of their season. Coach Rich Price's team took on Baylor Bears in a clash of Big 12 bottom feeders. After taking the Friday game 2-0 behind the stellar pitching of Ben Krauth, the Jayhawks lost their next 2 by a combined score of 20-7. Kansas is 20-28 overall with a 7-11 record in the Big 12. NCAA tournament chances appear to be very slim for the team this year.
Unfortunately, yes, but Kansas softball, a little bit of a different story. They were also taking on Baylor this weekend. It was Kansas's last series at Arocha Ballpark and the last series at home for the 4 seniors on the squad, including 2 pitchers. The Jayhawks dropped all 3 games by a combined score of 17-3. In her final games at home, pitcher Alicia Pilley took sole possession of 4th all-time on the Kansas strikeout list with her 645th career strikeout. Can you even imagine that number?
Striking me out that many times, probably.
Despite taking just 1 out of their last 6 games, Kansas still looks in prime position to make an NCAA regional as a 2 seed, and that 2 seed they'll be playing in the Athens region, so a pretty good chance that they even get to a super regional.
And that's all off the strength of their non-conference performance, because they were so talented and played so well, and they've struggled a little bit here in conference. But I guess if you did enough work in the non-conference season, that'll get you there as well.
They have it.
And also, Kansas sports, but this is a little PGA flair. Gary Woodland, who used to play golf here at the University of Kansas, he earned himself a trip to the Match Play Championship round and a final round appearance against Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy, of course, the world #1.
Go in.
4 straight matchups were won by Woodland to get to this opportunity against McIlroy, but Woodland would just come up just short, and you see here it just misses a couple different putts. He was right on pace to play well during the tournament, but was not able to sink the putts when he needed, and he is defeated by Rory McIlroy 4-2.
Well, putting is key. I mean, anytime you're talking about golfing, and the thing that makes McIlroy special is he does knock down the putts, like you see right there. And Woodland, he had his chance. He had a shot. But if you can't knock down the putts, you're probably not going to beat the world number 1.
You drive for show and putt for dough, and nothing was more true there from Rory McIlroy. And in contrast, Gary Woodland, nonetheless, a very strong performance, who is now ranked at the 52 spot in the world, representing the Kansas Jayhawks. Griffin, we understand the beat writer for Sporting KC, and they actually beat the Chicago Fire 1-0 on Sunday. So what was your take from this game?
Well, it was an exciting game, and that was Pablo Nagamura who scored the winning goal in about the 60th minute or so on a header. And we asked him about it in the locker room, and he says, well, it was my first that we said, when was the last time you scored a header? He goes, well, this is my first ever, so about 32 years, and he's 32 years old. But the story of the game was undoubtedly Tim Melia, the goalkeeper. And Luis Marin is the normal goalie, so he's been in between the sticks every game this season.
But it's been a little bit of a problem, the goalkeeping spot for Sporting KC. How did Melia play yesterday that maybe gives a spark going forward?
Well, he did all the things right, and one of the big criticisms for Luis Marin is that he's not really decided. You know, he's not very aggressive, and he doesn't decide very well. Tim Melia, he was very aggressive, and when he made a decision, he was going to go after it. I mean, several times you saw him 20, 30 yards away from his goal line, clearing the ball with a slide, clearing the ball with his head. For you soccer fans, think Manuel Neuer. That's pretty much what he looked like. And it was a great performance along with some athletic saves. So I'm not going to say that he won the job. I mean, it's one game, and a goalie can just heat up and have a good game. But he certainly made the conversation a lot more interesting.
Well, a comparison to Manuel Neuer is certainly a high-flying praise there. From Griffin, who has watched plenty of soccer this year. So Sporting KC needing a boost. Maybe the spark comes from Melia in goal. They're hanging around the mid to lower spot of the Western Conference in their first season in the Western Conference. Griffin, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. We'll be back with Kansas beat writer GJ Melia to talk a little Maypac after the break. Stay tuned. And always the pleasure of talking with boxing with GJ Melia. Obviously a huge fight this weekend. We appreciate you joining and bringing your insight to the show today. One of the most anticipated fights of all time is the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. And it was a fight that was been waiting for years, and we finally got the opportunity to watch this fight. What was the anticipation like, and how do you think it matched up with it? 5
years in the waiting, and it was definitely worth the wait, regardless of what anyone thinks. And I mean, with boxing, it wasn't a super long fight, but it's just about the storylines, you know? There was every storyline, a lot of news stations played up the good versus evil. May not be the reality of the situation, but we can get to that later. But it was just really the storylines going into it, and how the storylines almost overtook sometimes that these two guys are the two best boxers on earth right now.
Yes, they are, and 38 and 36 years old, respectfully. Some of the older boxers, some say this fight should have happened maybe 5 years ago, but nonetheless, let's talk about the fight itself. It seemed like it perfectly emulated the styles of each of the two boxers.
Yeah, well, Pacquiao really didn't ever get into his style, and that's what his trainer, Freddie Roach, said during the fight and after the fight. That Mayweather really just played to his strengths, and Pacquiao was never able to kind of go out and really connect on a lot of punches, because that's the way Pacquiao does it. And he sits in there and he takes some punches and then he connects on some, and Floyd Mayweather just didn't let him do that. And Floyd Mayweather really played to his strengths the entire match, and it was just typical Floyd Mayweather.
Mayweather wins most of his fights on decisions, and many say he's the most offensive and best defensive boxer in the world. You mentioned earlier the good versus evil slate, and you wrote about this in the Kansan earlier. I talk about that a little bit, because that's maybe a side of this that not everyone knows about with each boxer.
Yeah, well, to the American public, Floyd Mayweather's kind of acts, just what he does in his personal life, are
very bold.
Very bold, and they're a lot more publicized than what goes on in Manny Pacquiao's life. And Manny Pacquiao lives in the Philippines for the majority of his life. But Pacquiao he's a senator there, but he isn't maybe the best senator as far as attending congressional hearings, stuff like that. He attended about 55% in 2014, which is way below what should be an acceptable rate in any country, regardless of if you're in a smaller Philippines country or if you're in somewhere like the United States. And he's actively spoken out against multiple causes in the United States. Well, in the Philippines that in the United States are very, very touchy causes with gay marriage and birth control and sex education for Philippine women.
So lots of things, I guess, going on. Maybe the fight's an opportunity to have both boxers be spotlighted more as humans, and we can learn as the American public from both sides, and both good and bad. So yes, very different. Now, back to the final judge scoring. Would you probably agree with how it was scored? I think rounds 4 and 5, really, you thought Pacquiao had an opportunity to win this fight or at least make it a close decision, but maybe the back half was dominated by Mayweather. Would you agree with the judge's decision?
Yeah, I'd agree with it. I mean, it really ended up going through the unofficial scorecards of some of the experts, were, I mean, it was 3-3 going into round 7, with 10-9. Each of them winning 1, and then Mayweather really took the last 6 rounds. And I would agree with it because if you look at all the stats, Mayweather dominated every single stat. He landed more punches consistently in jabs and in power punches thrown and in total punches thrown. And I mean, the only category where you could kind of say that Pacquiao outdid him was in power punches, but he threw more, but he landed less. I mean, Mayweather landed almost 50% of his power punches.
So percentage-wise, a much more accurate play there from Mayweather, and you did kind of see that in the other half of the fight. So that's GJ Melia, the Daily Kansan writer, columnist, and beat reporter. Always a knockout. We appreciate you joining us this morning. We'll be back with the news right after the break.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back. I'm Samiola.
And I'm Anna Prano, and this is your Good Morning KU News Update. It's official. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have named their baby Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana. Charlotte means petite and is the feminine form of Charles. Princess Charlotte's grandparents are, of course, Princess Charles and Princess Diana.
Another earthquake has rocked the Asian Pacific region this morning. A 5.6 magnitude earthquake struck 30 kilometers northwest of New Zealand. There have been no immediate reports of damage. The death of toll from last month's earthquake in Nepal is now over 7,000.
A 44-year-old Liberian woman has been diagnosed with the Ebola virus after having unprotected sex. According to the KABC TV and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, research is showing that the Ebola virus can live longer than the 3 months that were previously thought. Warnings are being given to all survivors of Ebola that they should not engage in sex with anyone until further tests have been completed.
The race for the Republican nomination for president has just gotten bigger. Former CEO in Hewlett-Packard, Carly Fiorina, announced her intentions early this morning. Fiorina has never held public office, but says her business experience will allow her to run the country more effectively. She also says if the November election were to come down to a woman versus a woman, then Hillary Clinton wouldn't be able to focus on certain topics.
An Ohio TV station is reporting that retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson has also joined the race. Carson is in Detroit today and is expected to make a formal announcement.
And finally, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is expected to join the race on Tuesday. Huckabee was also a candidate in the 2012 presidential election.
If you're a freshman or a sophomore, you might be able to get high-speed fiber internet service in Lawrence before you graduate. According to the UDK, the Lawrence City Commission reached an agreement with the RG Fiber that would build out the city with fiber technology. Projects in Baldwin and Eudora must be finished first, but now that policy is set, competitive providers can also apply.
And that'll wrap up for today's news update. In case you hadn't realized, today is the 4th of May, which for some science fiction fans is a national holiday. So this is our last show of the semester, so we'd like to wish everyone good luck with their finals, and until next year, may the force be with you at will. That was my Yoda voice, if you guys couldn't tell. And now we're also joined with Elizabeth Romy here, talking about the Union. So Elizabeth, what's new at the Union?
All right, well, coming into finals, as you know, I would just like to extend an invitation to all students to study at the Union. It's a good place to study. Can be quiet down on the first floor, Hawk's Nest. Of course, there's the roastery on the 4th floor. And are you a fan of, do you drink energy drinks?
I do drink energy drinks. I usually ride the Bull. I'm sometimes occasionally do Red Bull. Do Monster, but I'm a Red Bull guy.
Okay, well, good news for you. Monster is now being sold at the Hawk Shop and all KU dining retail locations. Going into finals, that can help. So
For sure. So students grab a couple Monster drinks, head down to the first floor of the Union, and study away for a couple hours.
there you go. Yep.
All right. Well, that will wrap it up, and we'll be back with Bentley and Griffin for the weather.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back into Good Morning KU. I'm Griffin Hughes here with Bentley Leonard out in the field doing a little bit of weather. Now, I know this is going to really make Cal mad, which is going to make it so sweet for me to do this. Bentley, please break down how the weather is looking for us today.
Well, right now I'm behind the Union towards Campanile, and it's about 70, which is really nice out right now, but it's supposed to get to a high of 85 later today, which isn't horrible, but it's not exactly ideal when you're walking to and from class. But luckily, throughout the week, we're going to get back to high 70s, low 80s, but unfortunately, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all have at least a 40% chance of rain, if not 90 on like Friday and Saturday. So at least when you're studying for finals, that's something to keep in mind. So you'll be in all day anyway, so you might as well just knock out some of the studying and reading that you have. But that's about it for the weather this week. And then next week for finals, it's going to be perfectly sunny, which is going to be a little torturous while you're in class taking a final. But when you get out, you'll be done. The sun will be shining. It'll be a high of 70s all week, perfectly sunny, no clouds. So you have that to look forward to. And then we have summer. So
Bentley out here doing my job for me. So if it's raining all week, are we going to expect some humidity just when it's not raining, or where are we in that?
Yeah, pretty much. The mornings are mostly supposed to be a little bit sunny, but that means towards the afternoon when it starts to rain, you're definitely going to feel the moisture coming in, getting some heat as well as some moisture in the air, and then it's definitely going to be a little bit, what's the word I'm like, what'd you just say? It's Monday.
Humid. A little bit more humid?
Yeah, more humid. It's Monday, but yeah, and then once it starts raining, at least hopefully it'll cool down a little bit.
Sounds great. You got any plans for this summer? You going somewhere warm?
No, I think I might be staying in Kansas City if it turns out I get this job I want. So.
Well, I hope you do get that job you want. Bentley Leonard, thank you for doing the weather. Now, we're not quite done. Now, usually on Good Morning KU, we're saying, all right, weather, and then we're done with the show, and I'm going to wrap it up. But today is a little bit more of a special occasion, you could call it. Jackson Long is our host, as you all know, and he's done after today. He's a senior, he's graduating, and the reason why I'm here closing the show, and not him, is because Jackson actually has a little bit of a special meaning, I guess you could say, to me. This show was the first show I've ever done at the University of Kansas, and Jackson was the man who made everything possible for me. So I wanted to say from the entire Good Morning KU crew, thank you very, very much to Jackson Long. He's made Good Morning KU, the Media Crossroads, KJHK, and the University of Kansas better just by being here. It wouldn't be the same without him. So from all of us here, thank you to Jackson Long, thank you to the middle school that's with us, and join us after the break when we're back with a special surprise here on Good Morning KU. You know who's the greatest pitcher in the world? Jackson Long. Not really, but he is the greatest show in the world. He's the greatest show host in the world. So, from all of us here on Good Morning KU, thank you to Jackson Long. Thank you to all of you. It's been a great semester. We'll be back next year. Everybody.
I missed you, we will.